call me Buffy if you want.
All right, welcome to a little episode where I get to talk to someone who's from Canton. This is someone that I met on TikTok and formerly a Canton resident, a Cantonian.
Cantonian.
And I'm happy to have you here to get into this a little bit. You and I wound up meeting through one of the TikTok lives I did with some of my friends, not my Karen Reed friends, but I think they're slowly becoming Karen Reed friends, Rob and Meredith, and the
Yep.
two of us sort of like broke off and have been talking because God, this is just such a compelling case, and I would love for people to hear from someone who, some of the players, like you're around that world. Can I ask first, like, how you got into the case?
All obviously because I'm from Canton, the news spreads like, hey, did you hear what happened in Canton? Did you hear what happened in Canton? That was, it went word spread pretty quickly about what was going on, and um, especially with people that I grew up in that town and people that we know that's involved, and it didn't take long for us to kind of get word of what was going down.
Now, like, did you ever at any point entertain the conspiracy? Because I think a lot of the people who are vocal about this online now, originally at one point, were open to the idea that there was some sort of involvement from maybe someone in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. That the defense kind of controlled the narrative from the beginning, and um, I was aware of who the blogger, who I shall not name. I was aware of him and his role in it, and the information he was putting out, and the 227 search, and are they dog bites on the arm? That's definitely caught everyone's attention and kind of made you think, well, maybe it is a conspiracy. And I definitely did entertain that because that was all the information that we had at the time.
Did you see that blogger that shall not be named, did you see that he was brought up on two more
I did.
charges today?
Yeah. I don't know if there are two new charges, but there are two formal indictments. I think that was what I
Hopefully,
read.
you can give me some insight into this because CF McCarthy's has to be the most delicious restaurant in Massachusetts. If you don't, I can't imagine a world in which if you don't live in Canton, you have to go to CF McCarthy's and you have to stop by the pizza place next door to taunt their security cam. Like, what do you think his deal is in terms of continuing to pursue this? That to me sounded like such a one-off. There was no cameras around really when they were doing it. It was like a casual night where maybe they shot a little bit of content. I think some people took pictures of them. But like, what do you think makes him tick as someone who's been aware of him before this?
Oh, well, he's totally in it for the attention. I mean, that's what he's getting paid to do, is to bring attention to this. It's all about tainting the jury pool. It's all about getting that one jury member has already made up their mind on the jury. That's what it's been all about. And if we end up at another hung jury, we're going to go through this all over again. So they have to continue on with that grift. It's not going to end. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it's just constantly keeping that story alive. It's not going to stop until the trial ends one way or another.
So how do you think things have been going so far for trial two? Like, I think that this, I'll just say for myself, I try not to be delusional about it because I realize that there's always a chance that there could be that ideal juror that someone like that blogger is trying to create, right? There always could be someone who's like, rotten or who flips, or maybe the rest of the jury doesn't suss them out and know to report them.
Right.
But
And we know what happened in the last trial. So I think if there is a person on there, they're probably under strict guidance to be as stealth as possible. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to make that mistake again twice. But we're not going to know until the verdict comes out, I guess.
who could ever, yeah, it's like who
And then even
knows?
after that, how are we ever going to know?
It's the biggest mystery. I feel like that's what's like gnawing at me all the time is how is there a chance? But I think that they did go cast a wider net. They did get a younger jury, which I think is good because like younger people, I'll speak for myself. when I was younger, I didn't really give a shit what was going on in the world. Like, I don't think I really started to care about politics outside of like in a meaningful way, outside of just voting, like
Right.
until I was like in my, mid 30s or something like that. Life seemed to get a little bit more serious. So I believe that there are some young people who could just be running around, completely unaware of this. And I
Yeah,
think,
the demographic of that of people who follow this case tend to be much older.
totally. I mean, this is a really old person's type case, like a DUI hit and run in a cop. Like it feels like prime viewing for like the Matlock audience. But
Yeah, and that's, I mean, the age of everybody involved is kind of, kind of sets the tone too.
for sure.
People in
Um,
their 40s and 50s, not 20-year-olds.
but I think the way that Brennan is doing this is a lot better. I think it makes a lot more sense in sort of the story he's telling. I think he was really smart in how he navigated who was going to like who was going to be a witness that was in consideration. I feel like he's been telling a very interesting story, and I assume after we get, you know, the kids and then the Aruba girls, I'm really, really hopeful that they're going to bring in her dad to talk about the clip of her saying I hit him. Possibly, maybe we'll get the clip of Nathan saying, Karen's not someone who lets herself get bogged down by something. She's the type of person who says, like she stood up right away and said, like, Dad, what are we gonna do? That would be a great clip. And then if we can get Natalie in there, all I want is Karen's. I would be so thrilled if Natalie got up there because I think that she'll be easy to tear apart by the defense. But I think once the jury sees her and they see like, especially a younger group of people, I think they'll be easy to see that like it'll be easy for them to see that Natalie was kind of like groomed by
Right.
Karen into doing her bidding.
She's definitely going to be obviously a key witness in the whole witness intimidation trial. But I think that he has to be careful not to, and I think maybe Lally's fault was maybe it had to do a lot of in which the order of the people that he brought in or the amount of people that he brought in. I think when you start bringing too many people in, it's like you have to find that fine line between bringing too many people in and bringing just enough people in to get the meat of the case in there. Um, because then now you're opening yourself up to Jackson, crossing people for days on end about ridiculous things and trying to trip them up on words that they say.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah, you're right. I think it is. Yes, I have like a fantasy for how something like that could play out. But the thing is you're right, and I thought it's so interesting that he hasn't called up the whole rigmarole of like the Alberts and like it felt exhausting the first time, and I think the pacing is nice. I gotta say, and this is like again me not trying to seem delusional and trying to be honest with myself. I don't imagine a world in which like Alan Jackson doesn't seem a little crazy to this jury because
right?
it's been so calm. Like I feel like Jen was so great. I feel like Carrie was so great. I think there was some moments where it was sort of like, Jesus Christ, Yuri, like, you don't have to play it so straight. But then on the other hand, why should he have to play the good guy?
Right.
What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, I think that, and going back to Lally, they started that case very much on the defensive, and Brennan's doing it very much on the offensive. It's very much not trying to explain or do away with the defense's theory and all that. It's very much an offensive attack, and I think Yuri's kind of his testimony was kind of in that vein about trying to be less defensive and more on the offense. But Jackson has a way of flipping that and making you seem very defensive. And if you become defensive, that means you're hiding something. That's kind of his shtick.
You're right. That's actually, yeah, that's a good way to look at it for sure.
And I think like people in Massachusetts in general don't really fall for that. You're from Massachusetts, you kind of know what kind of no nonsense kind of people don't fall for Action Jackson and his tricks and his flashy behavior and his theatrics and all that drama.
Yeah, there does seem to be like a few things that are lost in translation. Like he's tried hammering home things before, especially about when it comes to like the Proctor texts, for example, which were not great. But like, I don't think he realizes that in a Massachusetts like courtroom with that being the audience, like condemning Proctor for like getting Yuri to condemn Proctor for his use of like the R slur or something. He, I think that like all good adults can agree that that's not really a word that anyone should be using. It's a slur. It's called the R slur for a reason. But I think that he maybe thought if he was playing that to an audience in California, a California courtroom, I think that would be different. I think that people would be like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, that is just, you've crossed a line. But like to a jury that is presumably like grown up in Massachusetts, I don't think I think that that just makes them think like, okay, Proctor's a dick, but that doesn't mean he would like frame her for murder.
Yeah. I mean, I think those texts just, I mean, from my own personal opinion, I'm like, yeah, that's shit that guys say, that's shit that cops probably do. But what stands out to me is what he didn't say. There was no conversation about a cover up. There's no conversation about, yeah, we're going to take her down because when we're covering shit up, like that's not what you see in any of those text messages. And I don't, do you think they're going to bring Proctor on? I don't even know.
I think the defense may call Proctor. Um, it's really dependent upon what their angle is this time. And I think it's a little third party, but I don't think they're going to try and be as specific as they were this time. I think they just want you to think like there's so many other factors involved. It could be any one of these people, or it could be another thing that we don't even know yet. But like it's
Right.
not
All
his
about just raising doubt.
yeah, his opening did lean into it sounds like your dog just got a good stretch. I
Now they're
just
running and playing with each other.
I heard some good stretch ears or something. But yeah, I feel like they were hinting heavily at the third party in Jackson's opening. His opening felt a little bit like a replay of the last case in some ways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're recycling a lot of it. They're made adjustments based on probably whatever feedback they got, but I mean, they're basically working with the same strategy that they had the first time around.
It
But
was
he said a lot of things in that opening that he can't deliver on those things.
for sure. I mean, well, with I noticed a noticeable change in him. It was I think maybe it was during Jessica Kent or something like that, but he had been coming at the witnesses really crazy and it was
Right.
very dramatic and he was bringing a lot and I thought to myself, I don't think the Jackson Smoke and Mirrors works on a witness twice. It's too hard with like these
Right.
particular witnesses. These witnesses
Yeah.
like
They
now
know what's
know
coming. Yep.
what a conversation with him's like.
Right. Yeah. You could
And
definitely see that with Jen McCabe, how she was more prepared for it this time around.
yeah, she was great. I thought she was like absolutely phenomenal. I think it took a lot of steam out of the, Jen McCabe is this terrible person type of narrative.
Yeah, and I think she came across fine the first time either, but I think she did even better this time around.
And like I noticed that it was after a lunch or something. It seemed like Jackson might have gotten a note to like calm it down. And I
A
felt
note from
thankful for
Karen.
that. Yeah. Well, no, I'm sure Karen was like, keep going, like go twice. She has no like ability to read the room. So she probably thinks this is
That's
all
true.
going great.
Right.
But it seemed like maybe like the other attorneys basically said like, let's reel it in a little. Like it, and I had been waiting for them to do that for a couple days. Like it seemed like overdue. He was kind of having temper tantrums, and there's definitely something going on with that team over there. Jackson today, for anyone who is unaware, for some reason you're learning about this just through me. Karen didn't show up to court today. She called in sick, which I did not know you could do.
Now, is that true that or is that just rumor?
So it was told to Sue O'Connell, that reporter, that Karen
That
was,
horrible reporter.
yeah. I mean, I go 50-50 on her. Sometimes I think she's fine, but you're right. Maybe she isn't sick. Some people are saying it could be something within the legal team, but I think, what's been put out there, Court TV also said that she was sick, but
Well,
um,
apparently they were at some outing last night. That
yeah, that's what I was gonna just
Did you see
say is
that? What was posted on Free Karen Read? Someone reposted what someone said that she was out at some event last night and like maybe she got sick while she was there and I hope she's okay.
well, I have the message here from
Oh,
Samantha
she said her
Hennis.
friend saw her and Alan out at some Martini Celtics thing.
Well, I'm
Just
gonna
hoping
read
Karen
it.
didn't catch anything there. Sending best wishes for a speedy recovery. I'm like, is this person a mole?
Well, this is what I was gonna. So I'm gonna read it, and then we can guess because I have a theory. So Samantha Hennessy writes, "I hope she's
Yes.
okay. My friend saw her and Alan out last night at like a Martini Celtics thing. She was
Whatever
also
that is.
attending. I was gonna ask you,
I did a
um,
Google search, nothing came up. I'm like, what's a Celtics martini thing?
just hoping Karen didn't catch anything there. Sending her the best wishes for a speedy recovery, no matter what it is. And P.S. I am still mad at my friend. She refused to go up and ask for a picture because she was too shy. Now,
Is this
I'm
girl for
sorry.
real?
I feel like she's one of us.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, is she trolling?
Mm, Martini Celtics does sound like weirdly familiar to me, but I don't know what it is. Let me look it up and see
Celtics. It does
if
sound
like
like
it's.
something Karen would attend, though.
Oh no, absolutely. And it would be crazy if she called in for a hangover. Um,
That
but
goes that goes along with her gift basket that she auctioned away with the all the bourbon in it.
her Kentucky Derby part, I know. I was like, I know the Kentucky Derby is a thing, but is it like that big of a deal that we would like is it that big of a deal that we would have a prize basket for it at a party? Like, I don't think I ever grew up in Massachusetts giving a shit about the Kentucky Derby.
I've been to quite a few Kentucky Derby parties actually, but it's just so tone deaf and tacky and like read the room. I mean, come on.
No, they're completely inappropriate. So I don't know. The most I can find is there's a bar in Peabody called Patty Kelly's, and on Mondays they have martinis. Um, it says join us in trying any of our specialty martinis, including our giant espresso martini. Celtics versus Heat tonight
Oh,
at 7 p.m. I don't know if that's what this is. I'll send it to you, but it'd be funny if she was in Peabody getting
drunk
shit-faced.
with Alan.
Yeah, I kind of feel like her lawyers are not as into her this time around.
I don't think they're getting the big bucks this time around.
No, I don't think they're
I'm
getting
wondering if
anything.
when she hired them, it was kind of all inclusive of if there was a mistrial or anything like that, if they were required to represent her the second time around.
No, they could have
Their hearts
walked.
just don't seem into it.
No, they could have absolutely walked. I think the thing is that they started to see. The blogger said this to someone once and he was very open about it. And I thought it was very like tacky and sort of flagrant, but he did tell some other creator in this space once to like calm down, not go after each other so viciously. Like, there's plenty of money for all of us to make here if we play our cards right.
Mhm.
So I think that like they see the dollar signs associated with this case. I think that they have realized that this is, book deal material, especially after they were getting the documentary and stuff. Now, this is before they had seen the documentary and what the outcome of that was, and how I think that really changed a lot of people who were sort of undecided on the case, or some people who maybe thought she was innocent but like hadn't really dove fully in. Like, I think that that really started to change people's mind and open up the audience. And so I kind of feel like sometimes when I'm watching them in court, I'm like watching Alan Jackson tabulate how much his book deal will be worth. If this thing happens, if that thing happens, like, is this a chapter? Because that is what they're doing it for at this point. And I know Alan Jackson has done TV stuff before. I really think that this is going to end with him launching a production company, or maybe doing more on camera hosting, or trying to have a show that's like, um, until proven guilty or
Yeah.
something. And each week is about like a difficult defendant that, America just got it wrong. They were looking at it the wrong way. Like, I think that I could see him making that really obvious move. And I think Yannetti has had a huge boost in his profile locally. I mean, people are going to want to go hire David Yannetti after this. He really, you know, jumped the shark in some ways, like by committing
There's no
felony.
going back, right?
No, there's no going back. And I don't know why anyone would risk it for this bird brain. But, it's unfortunate that she called in today because, of course, today was the day that Patrick and Kaylee, John's niece and nephew, were set to testify. And I wondered if there was like some passive aggression there or something. She's so dysfunctional.
Like do it to kind of punish them,
Yeah, do it to
kind of
punish
control the
them.
situation.
Or like things have been so bad, maybe she like thought that the jury could use a break, but the jury still showed up to court today, and apparently a lot of them look like they're like kind of dying of allergies on top of this. So
So
like,
they're probably pissed off.
oh yeah, totally. I can't, I've never heard of a defendant calling in sick for their murder trial.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was allowed.
I can't get over it. Um, but yeah, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's next. What is the sentiment locally at this point?
I think the majority of people don't really care about this case
Really?
in general. Yeah. Um, I find it hard to find someone that I can talk to about it, especially someone who shares my opinion. So when I find that person, I'll be like, get over here, let's talk about it. But usually most people are like, well, I don't know. Like, man, yeah, it sounds like something fishy was going on. I don't know if they're good. I don't see how a jury could convict. It's all kind of very passive. Of course, you have your diehard FKR people they'll never change their mind no matter what. No matter what you show them, no matter what you tell them, there's no even point arguing with them because they're never gonna listen. But yeah, I think most people, especially this time around, it's like, oh yeah, kind of sick of hearing about it. Most people
Well,
don't really give a shit, to be honest.
we don't have any of the Lexus data yet, the new updated data, which I've, on one hand, I've heard people say like, I don't know if it's going to be that much better. On the other hand, I don't know. Like, in my opinion, when there's a piece of software that they only update every handful of years and they do an update, it's going to be a lot better,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's not just little things. Like, it's not going to be like the windows look different or whatever. It's going to be like a huge update. And so I'm at the point where I'm like, if they see video or like stills from a backup cam, from the Lexus's backup cam, and they see John get hit, I really think that the most hardcore people, it's gonna go full QAnon. They're gonna say it's a deep fake. They're gonna say it's a
Oh yeah, of
setup.
course.
They're
Everything's fake and everything. Everyone's in on it and everything's manufactured and It doesn't matter what it is. It's they're never going to be convinced. Um, but I think the obviously the data, the phone data, the car data, those are the key elements in this case, and that's what really um, would make me as a person on the jury convinced that of guilt. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we get if there's more information from the car data, because I feel like it was kind of so a lot of the presentation of the car data and the action the crash reconstruction. I thought that was really lacking the first time around. So I'm pretty confident that Brian's going to do a much better job this time around. Looking forward to seeing what he does with that, or what we find out.
So, like, I thought it was really interesting that footage we got to see from the garage, or rather from the driveway at John's place that morning when Nathan and Bill and Karen went to One Meadows to get her stuff, and the
Mm-hmm.
behavior in the driveway, especially that clip of her sort of, I mean, really badly faking. It looked like I saw a really bad fake slip and fall at Trader Joe's like a few years ago, and it was really the worst fake slip and fall. Like, I can't believe people do this and then try to take this, like have people take this seriously. It was like that kind of thing. It sticks out in my head as the most unnatural thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And like to
like the rich green fall.
yeah, and like it was so it's so bad for it's so embarrassing. So my question with that is because like that really got me to thinking about the time when Karen possibly would have had a moment to delete the Ring videos, or do you think that the Ring videos were deleted elsewhere? I noticed that Buchanan was able to mention that Karen had her laptop sitting right next to her when he came to interview her later, and I wondered like, oh, okay, I
She
wonder if
is right
that's
there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't most people access it through an app on their phone?
So if you have like the login, you can do it anywhere. And one thing that I sort of, this is what logically made sense in my head was that maybe John had an iPad that was hooked up to his phone next to the bed because I guess he was sort of obsessive about the Ring video stuff, which is, I think, like a very average hobby for most men. Like you have that, why not look at it? But
Especially in law enforcement, so that makes sense.
totally. And like, I thought, okay, maybe she could have done it up on an iPad or something. But I feel like if that was the case, if there wasn't a device like that, they would have had access to it and we'd know maybe a little bit more about what apps were visited.
Right.
But logging in and doing it from the house, the kids had said that Karen had access to the Ring camera on her phone as well.
I mean, if she practically lived there for 2 years, I would find it hard to believe that she wouldn't have access to the Ring camera,
Right. And John
either
is
on
like,
her phone or on her laptop or whatever.
he's like the age where like, we all sort of have passwords, like the same password for everything. Like I don't think he was like that much of a security person in that sense, if I had to guess. But I just like I can't believe how obvious it was that I just can't believe how obvious it was that like these videos were missing and that the only thing that was left outside of stuff that happened after she pulled the car out that morning, the only things that were left was that video of her hitting his car. Like that's just so suspicious. I don't know why people aren't yelling about that all day. It's like way more suspicious than any butt dial could ever be.
Of course. Yeah, whenever the people involved do anything that's deemed suspicious, it's because it's part of the conspiracy. But Karen can never do anything suspicious or any of the lies that she tells or whatever that doesn't raise a red flag. But I don't know if you can prove that she deleted those videos, but there's the fact that they don't exist and that they could incriminate her. Like that's enough to be like, to raise suspicion about that. In
Yeah,
my mind.
I mean, we still haven't heard the defense's theory yet, but like and maybe like their case will sort of be concerning. Like there was a couple times where I thought like Buchanan like got us in a little bit of trouble with his sort of line of like the way that he was responding to Alan's line of questioning. But Brennan did great, I think, on like sort of pulling him out of it on um, redirect. But yeah, I want to know from you, like, we got to see more Higgins texts, which was thrilling. Do you have any like local lore on Higgins? Like he kind of gets around, right?
So yeah, I know somebody who had briefly dated him at one point. I didn't get a lot of dirt on him, but he seems to definitely get around it. He's not, the people that want to say that he was this jealous person who flew into a rage and murdered John because he just had to have Karen. It's obviously ridiculous. And um, yeah, the word is that he gets plenty of action. So I don't think Karen was of that much of a significance to him.
Do you think she slept with him when she went over his place for a drink?
Probably.
Right?
Oh, I don't know. Wasn't his text like, oh, was it good or I don't know. I forget what they alluded to after that. It was kind of cryptic.
I should have his full text somewhere. Oh yeah. Um, I have an article with his full text that I will put in the description, but I um I was I was a little shocked by that. I almost felt like that was a little bit of maybe the reason why the defense had Yuri read all these because like I thought okay, maybe this is supposed to give motive about now that we know they slept together. Because I think that, by the way, the defense is extraordinarily online throughout all of this. I think that people, like people's theories, like all of this stuff, I think it's all making it into their
Yep.
case. This is a very online case. And frankly, I think the prosecution has been borrowing from online as well. But um there was something someone on the Reddit that I follow, this guy RuPalver, who's a really brilliant commenter, he said that like basically word for word, at one point, one of the I think maybe Lally or Brennan said something that he had written a comment like word for word, and he's like I know that's probably not the case, but he's like I was like, oh my God, are they talking about me? Um, so. I think that they're very online. I remember I put this out there, and I think a lot of other people were sort of putting out there around the Higgins texts, that sort of like the only way you could ever believe that Higgins might have cared enough about Karen to do something is if they slept together. Because based off the text that we saw, like there's nothing there that I think would motivate an adult male to the point of like being that jealous. But other than that, like I thought these texts kind of made her seem a little bit more crazy.
Oh, definitely. She was definitely the aggressor in those text messages. But the thing that kind of shoots that whole Higgins theory is that she texts him the day John dies, and then she never hears from him again. So, okay, mission accomplished. Your competition's out of the way, and now he's just going to ignore her. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, some people would say
Like he
that
could have
like the
swooped right in. He could have swooped right in and been like, "Oh my God, I'm here for you," and all. You know what I mean?
totally.
That's his opportunity.
Well, some would say that the reason why he didn't go for it is that he was a part of hurting John, so he wouldn't want to engage with her, like on the off chance that it was like too obvious that that's what he and John were fighting about. And again, I sort of think that's ridiculous, but
I would think that would make you seem more suspicious.
yeah, for sure. Um, I I was hoping for at least a little bit more drama from the defense. Now, let me ask you, like, do you have any gossip about, um, like, I don't know, like, do you, like, who else in this case do you might maybe have some local gossip about? Like, do you have anything on, like, Scanlon?
So I know somebody who actually I know somebody who knows somebody, or I kind of know somebody indirectly who is um has dated Scanlon. And I've been trying to dig for information of how he got involved in how that whole thing originated, but I haven't really gotten to the bottom of that yet. All I know is that, they tried to give him money and he refused to take payment. So is he a good guy? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to dig into that.
I'm wondering how old he is.
I believe he's in his maybe late 50s.
Okay, I see. In my mind, I had thought of him as a little bit older. I mean, when I listened to that illegally recorded call, which I can't link to, unfortunately, but I did get a link to the Scanlan tape with him and Turtle Boy.
Mhm.
And he just seemed excited to be a part of something, if that makes sense. Like
Like he has
he,
a history of inserting himself in cases. I'll say that. Where he,
okay,
where he likes to come off as the hero. That's what I'll say.
is that publicly known or is that
Um, Kevin on Yellow Cottage Tales talks about, I don't know if it was in his book or one of the episodes on his um, YouTube channel, talks about how he inserted himself in another case of, like, I believe, like a murdered child.
oh, yeah, I didn't know about that, but that makes sense. That makes sense. It feels like something because he seemed, you know, on the phone with Turtle Boy, he seemed like he was a fan and he was like really excited to have Aiden's attention, which was like a bad look, I thought, just in life.
Mhm.
Not even so much in
Knowing what
terms.
you know.
Yeah, well, like, or not even know it. Like, I'm like, what do you mean you're excited to talk to fucking Turtle Boy? Like, what,
That's,
like, why do you think this guy's a celebrity? But,
I mean, there's
um,
definitely two camps. But before all this, there's people who, if people who knew of him, you either were a fan or you thought he was disgusting.
yeah, I'm kind of like, I go back and forth between like being very fascinated by him and then just realizing like it's so much, there's no point in trying to understand it because like he's a crazy person.
Yeah, and is he a narcissist or is he just being manipulated by a narcissist?
No, I think he's absolutely a
He's a full on.
narcissist. I feel bad. I'll tell you what. I'm not trying to, play a martyr or a saint. I'm not trying to audition to be a saint here. But like, I feel bad for his girlfriend. Like, to me, like, I don't know. I think he's like 46 or something. Like, 32 and 46 is a formidable age gap, especially when one is at least locally famous. And she's cute. Like, what the hell is she doing with this man? And, she definitely has dirty hands. She's been a part of this whole thing. She cheers it on. She's taken part of the harassment. But I feel like there's almost no chance that that's not an abusive relationship.
Well, I believe that's kind of the nature of all of his relationships, allegedly.
Yeah, I wonder what
Um,
happened with that wife he's I guess still married to.
well, I mean, he's known for the whole revenge porn thing on the women that he sleeps with.
Oh, right.
That's what's out there.
Yeah, he's going down big time over this. I
I
guess
hope
like
so.
the woman that, he sort of grumbles at the end of 34 Fairview, like he sort of like is mealy mouthed when he admits it to like very much trying to downplay it with William Phelps. But like in the last episode of 34 Fairview, he does mention, oh, like it's just like some bullshit like assault charges. Like he sort of tries to bat them away. But like to my knowledge, what he's accused of is assaulting sexually assaulting a woman who was very, very wasted. And I only know that because I heard it from him. But And I think I might have even seen somewhat censored photographs of her nude as well. Like some sort of sexual act that they were in, which is
Ugh.
disgusting, and my brain has tried to override it, I think. But um like he is suing her for defamation right now, which is totally abusive, and she is representing herself. And
Ugh.
so I think they were in court for that today.
Is there a criminal trial still for that assault?
I don't believe that's been handled. No. I don't think that's been put to bed.
She had a restraining order against him,
Yeah, they did. And like I think it was one of those things where they both like broke it. Do you know what I mean?
right?
Like I think but I mean like there's this weird thing where it's like I get it. I get why you don't want to put this down. Like I think I get especially why Turtle Boy doesn't want to put this down. But it's hard with like, someone like I think this woman's name is Lindsay or something. It's hard with her because like she has every reason if she can to the best of her ability to stay away from this, and it doesn't help her that she is with Kate Masshole Mafia, who I do like Kate. I think like Kate is really on it and I think she really cares about it, but like there's this misconception I think that because she has a previous relationship with Turtle Boy, she wrote for him for a while and then she wound up leaving. And like the way that the situation she left and how she left it to me, like very much came across like honest and fair and like this type of fallout that happens between people when they're working together and they have staunch disagreements. The two of them do not like each other. That's totally normal. But like people seem to think that Kate only cares about this because of it's bringing down Turtle Boy. And I really at this point, so many people think that like, oh, you must get all of that from Kate. Like stop watching Kate. And it's like I don't think she's the big uh fish here that people think she is. Like but I don't think it does Lindsay any favors to be seen with her.
Yeah. Um, I know Kate does get a lot of inside information because she has interconnections. So she is a source for a lot of information, but she's obviously not the only source of information, the only player in all this. I don't know how that really hurts Lindsay, other than if you're siding yourself with someone who's people think that you're out to get Turtle Boy. Maybe that's the alliance that's not good.
So you're a big Kevin fan, right? That's like where you tend to get your
I
stuff.
well, I don't want to say anything bad about Kevin because he's really sick in the hospital right now, and I wish him well.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
originally, I did start watching Kevin's channel when he had other people on his channel, and it was a discussion, and I believe that it was kind of right around the time where other people on his channel were for the conspiracy, and he was starting to turn to thinking that she was guilty. That's kind of where I kind of stepped into that channel. And that's kind of where, and I do think, and then people are going to be like, he's not fair and biased, but I do think he is fair, and I do think he'll admit if he's wrong about something, and he really tries to limit speculation and really stick with facts. I do believe that. I don't agree with him politically necessarily. He says a lot of things that I think are kind of
No,
offensive in some ways. Um,
totally.
but as far as a source, yeah, he's been someone that and at the beginning there was nobody. He was all that there was. It's kind of built since then, and I do listen to other people besides him, but at the beginning he was all that there was.
Yeah, I think that anyone who is talking about this case to the extent that someone like Kevin does, like they would have to be lobotomized to not have an opinion and to sort of lean a certain way. Like there's, you know, journalists out there and then there's people who people want to watch on YouTube. But like there is an approach that is possible to take, which is like from a point of fairness, you know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of more what you're saying is like, there are definitely creators out there, especially on the other side, who will like refuse to give in to anything close to logic. And I am like so disappointed with, as always, disappointed with Law 2, but I'm like, I think that someone could win me back if they are brave enough to change their opinion publicly in the middle of this case. Like,
And
maybe
that's
I'm,
what he did because he was originally, thinking that there was a possibility that this was a conspiracy, and he did change his mind.
it's very strange to see like big podcasters that don't really have any skin in the game though talking about it because they just come at it with like the broad strokes from the sensational version. Like Heather McDonald was talking about it today. I saw a clip of her and like it was so cliche all the way down to so Karen called John a pervert because they were swingers. And I'm like, that's not like, come on. Like sisters are not swinging together. Like I don't know what kind of sick world you live in where like people do that, but like it's not really it's not that's pretty extreme shit. To like at the end of a 22-year-old's birthday party, the adults start swinging together. Like that's crazy.
And what does that have to do with her backing into him? Is that
Exactly.
so she figured out his deep dark secret, and that's why she ran him over?
It doesn't feel good to be against a woman, but like I really hate her for what she's done.
Yeah, she's not. She's the anti-feminist or the anti-feminine hero. I think, in my opinion, she's not. I don't think she's somebody worth cheering for, as far as being pro women. I don't think she's a girl's girl. I don't think she's that type of girl that would go to bat for another woman. You know what I mean?
No, I mean like I remember I wish I could find what episode it was again, but there was a clip. I remember like I was still really going to physical therapy like multiple times a week at that point, and I remember driving past this fucking McDonald's that I hate to see because I can't ever have McDonald's again as a gluten-free person, but sometimes I'm like, I just want those fries. Like I just want some fries. Can't have them. And I remember driving by this McDonald's like a fat ass, literally like a fat ass being like, God damn it. And this little clip is burned to my mind from him saying like, someone who knows Karen Read and wants to stay anonymous says that like when it comes to her problems with other women and if she feels she's being slighted by one, she will do everything she can to destroy them. And it was such a crazy quote that spoke to so much to me because like I think she's volatile and like I think she's mentally ill and like I think that she is just conditioned poorly. Like one thing that stood out to me in so much testimony that we've seen so far is that like Karen is like a mad negative person and like a crazy shit talker. Like she was like that poor man with the bad breath and then like that poor like who the hell's like gay Jeff and then like the way that she just kept like she had some fucking thing with Carrie. Like she had some problem with Carrie that I do not know exactly what it was, but her beef with Carrie was very real and it was for no fucking reason that I could.
Her beef with Carrie was that she was close with John. That was her beef with Carrie. That they had a long-standing, close friendship, and that she probably never had with a man, or she probably never had that type of relationship like that. And couldn't understand it, didn't like it, felt threatened by it.
But like the way she would talk about her was like sort of like, like, oh, everyone would know. Like typically if you want to talk shit about someone, you test out the waters, right?
Right.
You don't just say, "Oh, everyone in Canton has your phone number, even Carrie." Like, what does that mean? Like, oh, Carrie's the last to know everything, or Carrie's such a drip that like even that loser has your phone number, or like I don't know why I am so caught up on why it's like this knee-jerk reaction to just shit on Carrie and assume that everyone else is in on the bit. And I'm kind of like, did John have a little bit of a sense of humor about Carrie that like Karen misinterpreted or like went a little too hard with. Like I just thought it was so strange that Karen just felt like she had an open door to shit talk Carrie whenever she wanted.
Right. Like, I mean, she clearly lacks self-awareness. The way she comes across in all those interviews is just like so cringy to me. Especially that clip from I think it was the ID one where she says that John was she's never had someone who's been extricated out of her life before. Like just the language that she used and the way she talked about him, it's just so bizarre. I think she has really zero self-awareness of how she comes across, and um, she thinks she's in on the joke, but there is no joke.
Oh, that's such a good way of putting it. That's such a read. Well, can I give you a little do you know I'll give you a little tea before I let you go. Do you know about Dickie on TikTok?
Who is he? I'm dying to know.
Well, guess what? I
What?
I think I might know
Are
to
you
an
gonna, are you,
extent.
are you gonna tell us?
So I'm gonna send you a link to a YouTube video, but Lilia, who's also a fixture in these free Karen Read loser chats that I participate in all the time, she she sent me a video late last night and was like, "Oh my God, it's Dickie." And it was like a clip from a protest outside D&E Pizza on Mother's Day.
This
And at the yeah, this Mother's Day. And at
is he from Canton?
around 21:33 in that YouTube video, if you listen closely, I mean, I'd know my man's voice anywhere. You can,
The man Dickie.
yeah, my man. Like, my biggest fear is that I'm like secretly in love with him. But, um, you can hear his voice, and like, people were trying to muddy the waters about this morning in one of the chats. They were being like, "Oh, well, that's just like a guy from Massachusetts. That's just a Boston accent." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. We're not idiots. Like, we've argued with this voice for hours on end before."
Mhm.
So, I think that, the guy, unfortunately, that took this video, he's some guy from Wales, I think, that flew in to Canton. At one point, he mentioned something about how he's renting an Airbnb. He runs a YouTube called The Alternate Corner, but where I think he covers all types of true crime. But he's been really in on this Karen Read thing, and um, he flew in from Wales to stay in an Airbnb in Canton for 3 days so that he could be around during this trial. And it's like the worst live stream footage I have ever seen. Like, I have never, like, you could have given a toddler this camera and they would have had a clearer shot of what was going on.
He's
But
flying through
like,
the street shots of the sidewalk.
no, it's unbelievable. Like, I almost wanted to leave a hate comment being like, "Are you fucking kidding? Like, why like the fact that this guy might be able to write this trip off is like infuriating to me."
Probably sounds like
But
a professional.
um there's possibly two. I think it could be the older guy in the blue hoodie wearing the red hat. I think there's a possibility it's him. But around the clip where I told you, there's a guy, I think he's wearing a navy blue shirt and a white cap.
Okay.
And Dickie, we've asked him, people lie on the internet, we know. But like, I feel like there's some things says that I think are authentic. And this is one of them because we're like, what the hell? Like, who's paying you to be here all day? And he said that this is his off season. And then it like sort of suggested that he works in golf, like in that world.
Okay.
So the white hat would make sense. The fact that this guy kind of like scoots along eventually. Also, I don't know how far D&E is from the grave site where like John is buried, but Dickie had gone to John's grave on Mother's Day after visiting his grandmother, who was
I
buried
believe
in the
that
same cemetery.
I believe that cemetery's in Braintree.
Oh, is it?
Remember where the Blue Hills Drive-In used to be?
No, but
Well, you're more North Shore, so
oh,
it's
actually, you know what? I do know because
now a park and ride for Logan.
I got I went to that drive-through when I was a kid and I got bee stings on my hand. I stuck my hand inside of one of those little poles where the speakers were supposed to
And
go.
you get stung by a bee.
I got stung by like three. So
Terrible
yeah,
childhood memory.
I know. I passed out like in the back seat of the car before the movie started. I was in so much
Oh
pain.
my God.
But
But
it was the 90s.
yeah, that and that I'm sure it probably closed shortly thereafter. But there's a cemetery that's up behind there. You can kind of see it in the daytime. And I only know this because I have one of my stepfather's relatives is buried there, and I believe that's where John is. And so it's not I don't believe it's in Canton or close
How
to where.
far is Braintree from Canton?
It's probably like 10 minutes,
Oh, okay.
minutes, depending on where you're
So,
coming from.
okay, because I was gonna say that's like, what are the odds that Dickie's grandmother would be buried in the? I mean, I do believe that he's
That really his
probably.
name? Do you think his name's really Dickie?
I think it's probably like Richard or something. There's a lot of him that I just don't believe he's lying about. Like, I think he really is around 45. I mean, he sounds a little bit younger to me, but not by much. He sounds a little young to be 45. He I believe he's twice divorced. He said the reason why we got the divorce out of him was because he said something that felt so authentic about how he's like, someone was talking about Martha's Vineyard and he was like, "Oh, I spent like 15 years on the vineyard. I'm good," or something. And it sounded like that was maybe something his ex-wife made him do.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, that's telling. And like my working theory is that Dickie got screwed over in family court, or his business was somehow affected by some municipal bullshit or something. But I think he definitely knows that Karen did it. I mean, when you tell him, like, Dickie, you obviously know she did this. Like, you just have a problem with the authorities there. Like,
Right.
he'll get really quiet. He won't deny that he knows she did it. And
Notice that he nitpicks on some silly detail that doesn't I've on the few times that I've listened to him talk, he kind of nitpicks on some silly detail that doesn't really even matter.
well, it's a little bit like a mystery writer where it's like, I think that he feels like you have to interrogate each piece of information because, like, if you don't, then the mystery could lie there. So I always feel like he will hyper focus on certain details of it as if, like, well, if they can't prove that that exact thing happened, then the whole thing
Yeah,
falls apart.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's just not how. That's not how juries work. It's not how like common sense, real world things
Right.
work.
Mhm.
But like about the sentiment, because it does seem like a lot of people are really fed up with law enforcement there. And I think that this is bigger than even Birchmore. I think that what happened to Sandra Birchmore is like so terrible, and like I kind of hate the conversation alongside the Karen Read thing because I just think it's like such a disgrace to her memory
Yeah. And
that
it's totally two totally different situations.
totally different. But like, is there outside of like just sort of the regular distrust that a lot of people have of authority, like, is there anything else going on there that you feel like is the reason why so many people have problems with the local law enforcement?
I don't really even know if that's the case, other than people who are involved um, in this trial or interested in this trial, other than the stupid audit they did for the town when they could have actually spent that money, you know, supplying them with evidence kits, which they obviously need. Um, but other than that, I just I don't see that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I hate to say it, but it's like I do think in some ways this is a partisan issue. Like, I think there's some well-meaning Democrats who have gotten wrapped up in this and like in how much
Well,
they
maybe
care
then.
about it, including people like you and I, where it's like I normally wouldn't take time out of my day to defend the police or whatever. But like on Karen's side, like I think that there's some people I've heard some probably very well-meaning but like incredibly out of touch people say that, if Karen Read is found not guilty, that's going to open the floodgates for change to be made for marginalized people. And I just think that's
That's
so
ridiculous.
full of like you're on a good one, if that's what you think. And like honestly, I low key think that's a little racist in and of itself to be like, if
Like
Karen
she's going to
Read
be the
can
Rosa Parks of wrongful um, criminal investigations.
100%. And like, by the way, the people of Massachusetts will never see her again if she's able to get out of
I'm
this.
sure.
But yeah, I just I think that like, this is a very heavily there's something so Republican about there's something so MAGA about all of this, like the whole crowd that is into it. Like it's just this is on both sides. This is like never a group of people that I would normally swim with. And I just find it so frustrating. And it's like so nice to have someone like you to talk to because it's like I know that, you know, it's probably weird for both of us, probably feels weird for
And
both of
to feel
us.
so strongly about this case or be so vested or so interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just find it so fascinating because I think it does cross party lines. I don't think you can, but even though FKR is very MAGA like and very um, has all the elements of a cult, um, but I think you find people in the full political spectrum who are on both sides. I think you have um, people in the town who are on both sides. You have people within families who don't agree. Um, People, friend groups that don't agree. I have friend groups that don't agree. I know people's family who they don't all agree. So it's just so unpredictable. You can't really predict where someone's gonna land in their opinion on this case, and I find that so interesting.
No, you're right. It's a good point. I'm gonna have to practice my patience for when I go home because last year I felt I was home when the verdict happened. They were deliberating for most of the time I was at home, and you know, I was surprised by how mixed my people were on it, and I thought to myself, like, where I was last year was like, she's not going to be found guilty, but like, she definitely did it. And there was a lot more patience for Karen at like my mom's birthday dinner than like assumed there would be. I thought that like, these are smart people, like they'll know, like they'll see what we see, but
Right, they'll
like
see right through it.
no, but they like were like, who knows? Like, she probably, because I just couldn't get past the fact that she was even dating a cop. I'm like, I don't think that people at Fidelity probably like smiled upon her dating a cop. Like, not just because people in finance are traditionally much more conservative, but like, I mean, isn't that sort of a punchline to like have like a cop boyfriend? Like, I thought that was sort of like dating a townie cop wasn't like a prestigious thing.
Well, he's a Boston cop. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
she did like to throw that out when Higgins drove by and beeped at her. She said, she called John, her husband, and said, "My husband's a Boston cop." Um,
Mm.
you know, there's people say she's a badge bunny. She went after John, she went after Higgins. So I think there's a certain type of woman who's into that. I once had someone try to set me up with the cop, and I'm like, no, thank you. That's not my it's not my scene. It's not my vibe. But I think there are a lot of women that like that are into that. We like to think of Massachusetts as this liberal state, but if you look at the previous election, like there's a third of this state voted for Trump. And then I actually went and looked at the statistics in Canton, and a third of Canton voted for Trump. So, we think we're united and we're so liberal, but there's a lot of division in the state.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a lot of division in Canton too. So, and maybe it's just because I'm an older generation, so I don't hear a lot of the anti-police talk in my daily life, other than like the political groups that I'm part of. Um, I think it goes both ways, really.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was like, for me, it was always more of like a status thing. Like, I was like, you've had this job at Fidelity for 20 years, which is like one of the more perplexing parts of her persona because everything about this woman tells me that a 20-year relationship is like outside of her reach, you know?
Mhm.
Like, she doesn't seem like someone who can maintain, but like, I guess how I thought of it with Karen was like, you have all of these things going for you on paper. Why wouldn't you try to find another businessman? Or why wouldn't you try to find a guy that maybe like worked in a creative field or like something that like, date a writer, like or something. But I guess maybe we're just not working with the same set of logistical skills, you know what I mean? But
I mean,
yeah.
maybe she comes from a blue collar family, and that's just like she doesn't really carry herself as someone who may would want to date somebody who was more prestigious. To me, she kind of carries herself more. I mean, Fall River is kind of a working class kind of
Yeah.
city, but I know her dad is a professor, and that's not doesn't really fit the mold.
Yeah, they've been
But
saying so like that's so I have some like fidelity stats on Karen.
mhm.
So and this is just really gossipy and like not something that I would ever mention about someone like unless it was a murder trial and she had framed literal children. I don't think I would ever get this petty or down in the details. But like, so a financial analyst from someone in one of the groups I'm in, they work in finance, and they said that a financial analyst is like a great job for like a 27-year-old,
Mhm.
but it's not a job that you hold on to for more than a few years without getting like a promotion or something or moving on into a different area of finance. Like it's a good
Right,
starter job for a young person. You'd be like, oh, wow, that's great that you're doing that.
right,
But for her to have never moved out of the role
right.
at the company over 20 years is kind of crazy. And apparently her salary would have maybe been like on the high side, $175,000 a year, which is
Mhm.
a fuck ton of money. Don't like get me wrong.
Right,
Like in pretty much any state you live in, $175,000 a year will get you very far.
right.
At the same time,
Potential is there to make someone to do more and make more.
but like at the same time, that's not really like buying dinner for 25 people in Aruba money. That's
Right.
not like spoiling John's kid. I mean, she has expensive clothing. She has like I mean, like I'm not surprised that she's fundraising like this because like it seems as though she probably was just living within her means. Like just probably barely living within her means, if I had to guess, between her mortgage and cars and how much she was going out. I mean, it's not difficult to blow that salary. That's like, after the cost of living, I mean, it's not like she was had that much extra money. And
I
so
feel like
I'm
that's how you live, like when you're in your 20s and you graduate college and you get your first job and your first paycheck. That's kind of the way you live your life in your 20s, not really the way someone in their 40s lives their life.
right.
It's
Like
like
I
Arrested Development. She never really matured beyond that.
and like also those are the benefits of being like single and like not wanting a family or whatever, right? Like I think that there's plenty of
But
people
you
who
can
live
still
like
grow up
that.
and become an adult, and not that doesn't mean you have to be stuck in the mentality of your 20s just because you choose to not have a family. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. I just like I wish that for all of that, she had been someone who it's kind of just a waste of potential, I think. Like she could have been someone who, if she had done some more work on herself, she could have been more independent from John. For someone who didn't want kids, like she really wrapped herself up in this situation. And like someone like Karen should have been maybe seeing John like a couple times a week, but like fucking off and doing her own thing most of the time, like going out and doing enriching activities and stuff like that. But sort of like waiting for this guy who had also sort of put his life on hold to raise these kids. It just felt like such a, no pun intended, like bad investment.
I just wonder if she really didn't want to get married and have kids, or because it didn't work out for her, that's what she said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Make it look like it was her choice.
I think she very obviously wanted to marry John. Like to me, she always sounds obsessed with her status in that regard because when Higgins drove up by when she was weed whacking, the first thing she said was, "My husband's a Boston cop,"
Exactly.
right? And then like we have all of these interviews now where she says, and I guess maybe a little bit in the Higgins text, like, John and I aren't married. Like we're dating, but and it's, which is such an old fashioned thing. Like you don't hear, I guess maybe now with Gen Z hookup culture, you might hear that a little bit more, but like in real life, you don't hear women say that. Like typically if you're in a 2-year relationship with someone and you're watching their kids and like you're going on vacation with them, that's your boyfriend, like you're monogamous.
You're practically living there and you're fully involved in his kid's life. That's like your partner.
And now she's claiming that they were never in love and it's not like they shared a mortgage or anything. And it's just such a bizarre, it's like who's buying this?
I
And
think
it's
she
this.
has to tell herself that because that's how she lives with the fact with what she's done. She has to dehumanize him. She has to downplay their relationship. I mean, how else is she going to live with? She has to convince herself, all of these things to be able to put on the act and go through the motions.
Yeah, dehumanizing is right. Like he's like a buffalo on the prairie.
Yeah. He was a lump. I mean, you hear talk about he's a lump. He was a weird shaped object on the ground. It's never, he was never a human being.
I know, even his friend, I forget if this was in the documentary, if this was just another interview the friend did, but it's like even the way she says like in his drunkenness and like sort of sells him out that way. Like she just
Blaming him.
couldn't give anyone, yeah, like John didn't get an inch, and I feel like she is a domestic abuser. Like I think that this is like, I think she's like, I think it's domestic violence what she was doing to him.
Emotionally abusive.
Yeah. But oh my God, this was so much fun. I would love to catch up with you again, maybe in like a week or so if we get a big breakthrough moment in the case. I'd love to talk to you
Sure.
more.
More
And
gossip.
anytime you get the some Canton buzz, I'm totally down. Well, thank you so much for being here. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We will be doing more. Oh, wait, let me look and see if I have any patrons that I need to thank really quickly for their contributions to the network. Let me see, or not the network. Okay, so shout out to Donna. Donna, you're the man. Appreciate you so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.